shipment successfully passed our ports, 70 more containers of waste await to be dumped in our borders. Just last week, Australia shipped 7 container vans of shredded municipal waste in our country. Worse, the shipment's broker was the same company that handled the importation from South Korea. Unfortunately for us, shipments of foreign refuse are not the only garbage that continue to permeate and pollute our country. Illegal drugs, the worst kind of toxic goods that reek of evil and leave pernicious effects on at least 1 million souls in our society today, have also found their way into this benighted land. Ang nakaka-stress pa, Mr. President, makailang ulit ng pinalitan ang Commissioner ng Customs pero hindi pa rin masawata ang pagpasok ng illegal na droga. Imbes na magpataasan sila ng koleksyon ng buwis, tila naging padamihan sila ng mga drogang pumapasok sa mga adwana ng bansa. We have seen ingenious schemes of illegal drug smuggling in the recent pre-leadership of the Bureau of Customs. From the metal cylinders during the time of Mr. Nicanor Faeldon to the magnetic lifters of General Isidro La Peña to the most recent tea bags and tapioca starch of incumbent Commissioner Ray Leonardo Guerrero. Truly, drug traffickers and their cohorts in the government still continue to evolve into becoming the masters of their own craft. Mr. President, sa mahabang seri ng pagdinig sa issue ng 6.4 billion peso na halaga ng shabu na nasa kote sa Valenzuela City noong Mayo 2017, tayo ay namulat sa mga karakter ng drug smuggling tulad ng consignees for hire, Filipino-Chinese middlemen, mga tuso at konektadong customs brokers at mga walang kabusugan sa pera na tiwaling customs officials. Sa puntong ito, ating balikan ng ilan sa mga malalaking shipment ng illegal na droga na natimbog ng ating otoridad sa nakalipas na mga buwan. Kung gaano kalaki ang mga nakalusot, ang milyong mga adik na ang bahalang sumagot. On August 7, 2018, 500 kilograms of shabu worth 4 billion pesos were discovered in the abandoned Becaba shipment consigned to one Vedasto Cabral Barakel, trading at the Manila International Container Port. 3 days later, 4 magnetic lifters consigned to SMYD shipment, which allegedly concealed high-grade shabu, estimated by authorities at 6.8 billion pesos were found, albeit empty, at the warehouse in General Mariano Alvarez, Cavite. In February of this year, the PIDEA, along with other government agencies, confiscated billions worth of illegal substances in 2 separate trades in the province of Cavite. Nakumpiska ang 36 na kilo ng shabu na nagkakahalaga ng 244.8 million pesos sa Dasmariñas, samantalang 274 kilograms o 1.9 billion pesos naman ng shabu ang nasabat sa operasyon sa Tansa, Cavite. Bureau of Customs and Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency also discovered around 13.1 kilograms of shabu valued at 90 million pesos in a shipment concealed as car mufflers at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport in February of 2019. Customs officials reported that the illegal shipment came from West Covina, California, in the USA, which were declared as car parts and was under an unnamed consignee. Amid all these operations, illegal drugs still find its way into our doorsteps, and quite literally. Last March 19, PIDEA operatives seized millions of pesos worth of illegal drugs packed in tins of Chinese biscuits inside the house of Ayala Alabang Village and at the parking lot of Alabang Town Center, totaling 166 kilos of shabu worth 1.13 billion pesos. 3 Chinese suspects and 1 Filipino contact allegedly involved in the international drug syndicate tagged as the Golden Triangle were also arrested. Hindi tulad ng mga kapuspalad na nakapuruntong at tsinelas sa mga sulok-sulok ng iskinita na malakas na madalas nating makita sa telebisyon, na nakatimbwang at walang buhay dahil nanlaban daw umano, sabi ni Cabo, buhay na buhay ang mga inchik na tila nag-iisip ng malalim kung magkano ang gagastusin sa mga abogadong may koneksyon sa piskal o huwes na magpapalaya sa kanila. Mr. President, at this point, people want to know the personalities involved in the well-entrenched, sophisticated operations of drug syndicates. Today, this representation wants to share a good lead. On March 22, a shipment of 276 kilos of suspected shabu with street value of around 1.8 billion pesos was seized at the Manila International Container Port. The Bureau of Customs reported that the illegal drugs were wrapped in drinking tea packaging and were found inside a 40-foot container declared as plastic resin. This shipment was under the consignee identified as Wealth Lotus Empire Corporation. We have it on good information that the main person responsible for the shipment is a Chinese national named Xijian Chu, alias Jackie Ko, who was born in Fujian, China. Jackie Ko, subject to ongoing verification by our local law enforcement agencies with their Southeast Asian counterparts, is said to be on the Interpol watch list and among the wanted personalities in China. Hindi lamang sa kasangkot sa kalakalan ng illegal na droga, bahagi rin siya ng isang malaking kidnapping syndicate dito sa Pilipinas na kumukubra ng ransom sa pamamagitan ng wire transfer at offshore banking. Ang huling kidnapping na kinasangkutan ni Jackie Ko ay nagkakahalaga ng 250 million pesos, Mr. President. Sa mga nakalap naming dokumento, siya ay may-ari ng Peidatong International Logistics Company na nakabase sa Bulacan. But what is interesting is that during the time of the said shipment, Jackie Ko was in the country monitoring. Even revolting is, in spite of his alleged involvement in criminal activities here and in China, he had left Manila via Philippine Airlines flight bound for Vietnam, passing through Singapore on April 3, 2019, few days after the seizure of his shipment of drugs. Hindi na nga nagmadaling tumakas, kampante pang lumipad mula sa NAIA. One may wonder, how can a person of such character slip the stringent scrutiny of the Bureau of Immigration personnel manning our airports, considering that the BID now uses state-of-the-art biometrics-based system for its computers in all international airports nationwide. While we surely celebrate high-impact operations, shenanigans embedded in the rotten system tend to overshadow our progress. Noong nakarang linggo naman, huli sa operasyon ng mga otoridad ang 146 na kilo ng shabu na nakatago sa 114 na bags ng aluminum pallets at tapioca starch na nakaimbak sa Goldvin Commercial Warehouse sa Barangay Santolan sa Malabon City. Ayon sa PIDEA, malaki ang posibilidad na konektado ang ilegal na kargamentong nagmula sa Cambodia sa international syndicate na Golden Triangle. Mr. President, despite the authorities' seizure of 1 billion peso worth of shabu in Malabon last week, some details presented to the public do not seem to add up. Ang press release ng Bureau of Customs as posted in their Facebook page ay ganito. The shipment was forfeited in favor of the government last March 1, 2019, after the consignee failed to file an import entry with Customs. Customs and PIDEA jointly inspected the 3 containers and were able to verify that the shipment indeed contained illegal drugs. But instead of immediately seizing the illegal shipment, they decided to allow the shipment to be auctioned off. By doing so, they were hoping to draw out possible members of the drug syndicates who may be interested in bidding on the drug shipment, unquote. The Bureau averred that it deliberately placed the shipment containing illegal drugs for auction which was later bidded out and won by Goldwyn Commercial. Let's assume for a while that we're buying their story. Question is the BOC legally allowed to subject prohibited goods to public sale or auction? Ating bisitahin ang mga provision sa Customs Modernization and Tariffs Act or RA 10863. Section 1139 of the CMTA provides the list of goods in customs custody that shall be subject to disposition. It specifically excluded prohibited goods. Thus, paragraph C, forfeited goods, and I quote, forfeited goods other than prohibited, restricted, regulated goods after liability have been established by the proper administrative or judicial proceedings in conformity with the provisions of this Act. Further, Mr. President, pursuant to Section 1146 of this MTA, public auction is not, I repeat, is not one of the prescribed means of disposing prohibited goods. In this case, prohibited goods including the shabu contained in 114 bags inside the aluminum pallets with tapioca starch as provided in Section 1146 of this Act should be destroyed and therefore should not have been offered for sale in a public auction. Further still, and this is another issue that PIDEA and BOC have to clarify, is it not completely different from the very nature of what we call controlled delivery, as they had claimed, controlled delivery, my foot? What we know from experience and knowledge of the procedure in controlled delivery is that this investigative technique targets specific consignees under the supervision of authorized project officers, basically for the purpose of gathering evidence against the person or persons involved in smuggling-related offenses. Again, assuming that we believe their controlled delivery story, which we of course do not, did Customs and PIDEA officials really expect the owners of this shipment to actually participate in the said public auction, knowing fully well that forfeited and seized commodities undergo 100% physical examination prior to disposition? Kahit paikot-ikutin nila ang kwento, napakalabo pa rin ng bersyon ng Bureau of Customs at PIDEA ukol sa mga pangyayari. Let me give you another story, one that is more realistic and convincing because it is the real story behind this shipment. To prove my point, let me quote a portion in a report signed by PIDEA Regional Director 3, Joel B. Plaza, dated March 11, 2019, 10 days after the forfeiture in favor of the government of the shipment and 11 days before its supposed seizure in the Malabon warehouse. And I quote, "The specimens submitted do not contain any dangerous drugs, controlled precursors, and essential chemicals," unquote. Sa katunayan, agad na pinasubasta or auction ang nasabing kargamento dahilan sa ito ay madaling nabubulok o perishable by nature. On May 22, the subject shipment was released to the winning bidder and delivered to Goldwyn Commercial's warehouse at 89F Malabon Street or Santos Street, Santolan, Malabon City. During the cleaning and washing of the commodity, one of the aluminum pallets accidentally fell off, which exposed an aluminum foil containing the illegal drugs. Immediately thereafter, the winning bidder reported the incident to the Bureau of Customs. Mr. President, we put the BOC and the PIDEA on notice that we were not born yesterday. It does not take much to figure out the holes in the plot that some not-so-smart characters in these agencies tried to fabricate but failed miserably. Simply put, this is a case of dishonesty with the intention of misleading the public. Mr. President, as adding insult to injury, the Bureau of Customs faces another question in leadership and management with the appointment of relieved MICP Collector Bener Bakiran to an even higher post as Customs Deputy commissioner. Remember my Tara expose? And the mysterious case of magnetic lifters? Not so long ago, Attorney Bakiran was one of the identified bagmen in the long list of BOC personnel receiving payola or Tara from big players inside the Bureau, which this representation had exposed in 2017. Subsequently, as former MICP director or collector, his name surfaced again in congressional inquiries and subjected to probe by both the National Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Justice, which the latter even recommended the filing of criminal charges against him after he failed to prevent massive drug shipments concealed in magnetic lifters from entering into MICP in June of 2018. Despite my expose on the massive corruption inside the Bureau of Customs, much to my dismay, I was informed that just recently, the Tara system has not been by any chance suppressed. Worse, for many customs officials, it remains business as usual. Let me emphasize one point, Mr. President. As per my sources inside the BOC, as well as those regularly transacting business with the agency, Customs Commissioner, retired Chief of Staff General Ray Leonardo Guerrero, has remained untainted by corruption, at least as of this date and as far as this representation is concerned. But while he has reportedly managed to maintain his integrity intact, his leadership is challenged by his apparent failure to exact the same level of honesty and integrity from his subordinates, which true and real leadership is all about. My sources confirm that the following departments and sections in the Bureau of Customs continue to take their Tara per container, supposedly distributed as follows. For the Office of the Commissioner, an average of 5,000 pesos per container plus 10% of the collections of each section or office directly under OCOM, or Office of the Commissioner. 3,000 for Intelligence Group, 1,000 to 2,000 pesos for the Enforcement Group, 3,000 pesos for the Risk Management Office, and 2,000 to 3,000 pesos for the Import and Assessment Service or IAS. Kung kani-kanino napupunta ang nasabing mga Tara for his office or the Office of the Commissioner, I will leave it to General Guerrero to investigate and find out. Moving on, the MICP and POM district offices received 3,000 pesos per container. Each container with alert order may be charged as high as 50,000 pesos. Holy cow. With the average of 2,000 and 7,000 containers transacted for release every week at both the Port of Manila and MICP, imagine how much Tara goes to the pockets of these insatiably corrupt customs officials. May I ask, Mr. President, how can the Bureau thoroughly and sincerely address the country's drug problem if instead of punishing the corrupt or incompetent, or both, this administration is even rewarding these people with other positions in government? Sadly, what they cannot completely throw away, they tend to recycle, this time at the expense of the Bureau of Customs' credibility and to the detriment of the public. When we tolerate corruption and its perpetrators in the institution, reward incompetence rather than without the roots that breed it, the public will start to believe it is a given. And customs officials will start to believe it is a routine. This is yet another standing challenge to Commissioner Ray Leonardo Guerrero. To uphold your strong integrity and moral principles is a test of your character. The test of your leadership, on the other hand, is how your integrity and principles resound in the halls of your office and influence the actions and behavior of your subalterns. To fail in one is to fail in both. The Filipino people demand much from your leadership, while I continue to vouch for your character as it remains unquestionable. Some of your people are afflicted with severely debilitated credibility, which may eventually reflect on you and the institution that you lead and represent. Mr. President, to call out our authorities to secure our borders against various wastes of other nations, signifying no to the derogation of our national dignity, no to the dishonor of our sovereignty, and no to the desecration of our national identity. In closing, I would like to give credence to the words of Austrian sociologist and historian Ludwig von Mises, and I quote, "There's no more dangerous menace to civilization than government of incompetent, corrupt, or vile men," unquote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President.